I'm Erin Parsons, I'm a makeup artist, and I own Marilyn Monroe's lipstick.
She was Hollywood's brightest star until everything collapsed. Monroe's final days weren't tragic by chance. They were shaped by betrayal.
Perfume for me is an obsession. Marilyn Monroe is a hyper obsession. I think most of you already know that I am a huge fan of Marilyn.
Marilyn Monroe's death shocked the world, but what led up to it was even more chilling. From betrayal to barbiturates, Monroe's final days were filled with chaos, secrets, and unresolved pain. What happened to the world's most iconic blonde bombshell? Here's the disturbing truth that Hollywood never wanted you to hear.
How do you go about writing a life story?
The true things rarely get into circulation. Usually the false things.
Norma Jeane, a deserted small girl caught in a cycle of instability, came before Marilyn. Born in 1926, she never knew her father. Shortly after Marilyn was born, her mother, Gladys Baker, who had a terrible mental illness, was committed to an institution. 12 different families hosted Norma Jeane as she grew up, bouncing between orphanages and foster homes. Numerous people were careless, some were abusive. One lodger committed sexual assault against her. She developed a speech impairment and enduring trust problems from the trauma. Early on, her sense of self broke apart and was substituted by survival instincts. Hollywood would later glorify that image, rooted in childhood neglect and serious emotional scars. Behind the perfect makeup and bright smile was a woman who never felt wanted and never felt safe. Marilyn was isolated as she grew up, not just feeling alone, but also feeling isolated. At 15, Monroe faced homelessness again. Her guardians, unable to care for her, arranged a legal solution: marriage. At just 16, she became the wife of 21-year-old neighbor James Doherty, not out of love, but survival. It was a way to avoid being returned to an orphanage. She dropped out of school and played the role of housewife. But Marilyn was never meant for the kitchen. When Doherty went to war, she started working at a factory, and that's where destiny knocked. A photographer spotted her. Modeling followed. Stardom came calling, but underneath it all, she was still just a teenager trying to escape her past.
Wanna be loved.
Before she was a star, she was broke. In 1949, Monroe posed nude for $50, just enough to make a car payment. Years later, those photos resurfaced and changed everything. Without her consent, Hugh Hefner bought the rights and made Marilyn the first ever Playboy centerfold. The world went wild, magazines sold out, posters flooded college dorms. Hefner built an empire off her image. Marilyn, she never earned a dime. "I never even got a thank you," she once said. Hefner remained obsessed even after her death, going so far as to buy the crypt next to his, despite never having met her. The industry cashed in on her vulnerability. The woman who posed out of desperation became a symbol of desire, whether she wanted to or not. And that photo? It wasn't her launchpad, it was her branding, and it haunted her for the rest of her life. Marilyn didn't become a star by luck. She studied her photos, asked for feedback, and read classic literature on set to improve herself. She took every role she was offered and climbed her way up, one extra role at a time. But success didn't bring respect. Fox continued to cast her as the dumb blonde, ignoring her talent. She wanted more than seductive roles. She wanted to be taken seriously. In 1954, she fought back. Tired of low pay and degrading scripts, she walked out on her contract. It was bold and risky, but it worked. Fox increased her salary and gave her creative control. Monroe then became only the second woman in Hollywood to start her own production company. Marilyn didn't just act. She negotiated, rebelled, and created her path. But it came at a cost. The industry never stopped trying to shove her back into its box.
Well, I hope your phone is clean.
Everything connects in a person's life, particularly hers, you know.
On paper, it was a perfect couple. Baseball's golden boy and Hollywood's sex symbol, but behind closed doors, it was anything but. Joe DiMaggio wanted a traditional wife. Marilyn wanted a career. Their goals clashed constantly. He hated the attention she got from men, especially during her infamous Subway Grate scene in The 7-Year Itch. That moment triggered a violent argument, and soon after, divorce. Monroe later told close friends that DiMaggio had beaten her. Still, after the divorce, he never stopped loving her. He tried to help her through rehab, even stepping in during one of her darkest moments. When she died, it was Joe who arranged her funeral and had red roses delivered to her grave 3 times a week for the next 20 years. He blamed himself for not saving her. In many ways, their story was a tragic romance wrapped in misunderstanding, jealousy, and love that came too late. the world saw confidence. But on set, Marilyn was often terrified. She struggled with extreme stage fright, breaking out in rashes before scenes. Learning lines was hard, hitting marks harder. It once took her over 37 takes to say a single line. Co-stars grew frustrated, but many also sympathized. Jack Lemmon, who worked with her on Some Like It Hot, said she could nail it in one perfect take the very next day. The truth? She was deeply insecure. The pressure to be perfect was crushing. Even when the camera adored her, she didn't believe in herself. Her fear wasn't about forgetting lines, it was about not being enough. Marilyn married playwright Arthur Miller in 1956, hoping for stability. She admired his mind, he admired her soul, or so she thought. Behind the scenes, the marriage crumbled. Monroe found Miller's diary and read something she never forgot. "I'm embarrassed by her." The man she trusted most saw her as a disappointment. Miller wrote The Misfits for her, meant to showcase her dramatic abilities, but the script mirrored her emotional decline, portraying her as sweet, lost, and fragile. The set was a disaster soon after they divorced. Miller didn't attend her funeral. He later wrote that being around those phony mourners would have been unbearable. In the end, the man she loved walked away, leaving her more broken than before. More than fame, Monroe wanted a family, but motherhood slipped through her fingers. During her marriage to Miller, she suffered 2 miscarriages and 1 ectopic pregnancy. Each loss cut her deeper. Some believed her pill use and drinking contributed, but she also had endometriosis, a painful condition that affects fertility. Whispers also followed her. Rumors of multiple abortions done in secret to preserve her career. At the time, pregnancy clauses in contracts meant one slip could destroy everything. Whether by biology or brutal industry standards, Monroe was denied the one role she desperately craved, being a mother.
I like to stay here and now. Fame is fickle.
By the 1960s, Monroe's demons were winning. Barbiturates for sleep, painkillers for endometriosis, alcohol to numb the rest. It became a cocktail of survival and destruction. She attempted suicide at least once. Her mental health teetered dangerously. In 1961, she checked into Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic, claiming exhaustion. Instead, she was locked in a padded cell, stripped of dignity. The only one who got her out? Joe DiMaggio. Again, he forced his way in and demanded her release. Monroe wasn't just battling addiction, she was battling herself. And each day, the line between acting and existing blurred more. In her last weeks, Marilyn was both hopeful and unraveling. She had been fired from the film Something's Got to Give, then rehired. She is unraveling. I need to prove myself again. Friends say she was smiling more and looking better. She was reading, cleaning up, and reconnecting with people, but others saw warning signs. Her psychiatrist called her agitated. She was emotionally fragile. She had also just fired her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, only to let her return days later. Tensions with studios, relationships in disarray, and constant media pressure weighed heavily. She was trying to restart, but her foundation was cracking. No one truly knew what state she was in. She was hiding it all behind mascara and diamonds, but the cracks were there and growing fast. On August 5th, 1962, Monroe was found dead in her bedroom. Barbiturate overdose. Official ruling, probable suicide, but nothing about that night felt clear. Her housekeeper Eunice Murray gave conflicting stories. First, she said she broke into Marilyn's room after hours of silence. Later, she claimed Bobby Kennedy had visited that very day, though the FBI dismissed it. Some friends said Marilyn was upbeat, others deeply depressed. The timelines didn't add up. Her body was moved, pill bottles were scattered, but no water glass was nearby. To this day, no one agrees on what happened that night. Whether it was suicide, accidental overdose, or something darker, the truth remains buried in inconsistencies.
After 20 years, it's time to clear up this case once and for all.
Whispers of Marilyn's affairs with JFK and Robert Kennedy have never stopped. Some say she was silenced to protect secrets. Others believe she was planning to go public about political ties, affairs, or government dealings. Though unproven, the idea that Marilyn knew too much, felt used, and threatened to talk has been a pillar of conspiracy for decades. FBI files, redacted documents, and missing phone logs only deepen the mystery. The truth? We may never know, but her death felt too messy and too strange to accept as ordinary. Marilyn Monroe had everything: fame, beauty, and money, but not peace, not love, not safety. She died alone at 36, despite being the most photographed woman in the world. She longed to be seen for her mind, not just her curves. She was desperate for connection. Those who knew her called her super sensitive. She wasn't dumb, she wasn't weak, she was tired of being misunderstood, of pretending to be someone she wasn't. Marilyn Monroe wasn't a cautionary tale. She was a woman the world failed to understand until it was too late. Marilyn Monroe was more than the world's most famous blonde. She was a fragile soul chasing love and respect in a world that only wanted her image. Her life was no fairy tale, and her death still haunts Hollywood. What do you believe happened? Let us know, and subscribe for more.